Welcome to the Rinkside Rundown podcast, showcasing the incredible women's hockey players from around the world through compelling interviews and discussions alongside your host, Chris Sinclair. Hello and welcome back to the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Kenzie Lalonde, a play-by-play voice for women's hockey, including the inaugural season of the PWHL. Kenzie, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Great, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm in a Friends-themed cafe, so this is probably the best morning I've had in a while.
She's in her happy place, and that's what matters. So this is great. Let's get started. Let's like turn back time a little bit here, and just talk a little bit. You know, you're a former hockey player yourself. What was it about? And now you're obviously in the media and you're play-by-play for a number of tremendous tournaments in women's hockey, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. But what was it about hockey that kind of drew you to the sport when you were younger?
I grew up in a sport family and a hockey family, so I think it wasn't so much of a choice as it was a way of family life. So the second I could walk, my parents put me in skates, and I just wanted to be like my brother. Like most young girls, I think if you have an older brother, you get into the world of hockey and you just want to be like them. So he's 3 years older than me. He was a defender. I had a stint of wanting to be a goaltender, but that never lived out. So I was a forward, and I played boys in Ottawa up until about U10, and then switched over to girls. And then when I switched over to girls, that to me really lit the fire under me and fell in love with the game. I think it was something always I had done as a kid up till that point. And then as soon as I switched over to girls, I fell in love with the game that much more. So I played my whole life. In my senior year of high school, I played junior in what was then the PWHL, the Provincial Women's Hockey League. And so I played against players like Laura Stacey and Sarah Nurse when they were with their Toronto team. So it's crazy now to think they're playing professional. I'm in the world of play-by-play, and to see kind of where our paths have taken us is quite incredible. And I, was in my grade 12 year. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, if I wanted to keep playing the sport. But I knew I wanted to start a new chapter and move and study somewhere else. So I did go to the Maritimes and went to Mount Allison University there and did a business degree. And that's where I kind of got my feet wet into the media world while playing hockey as well. So I'm still very much involved in the game. I may have hung up my skates, but the passion hasn't left, and it's just been a ride this year with the inaugural season and calling professional hockey. Like for me, it's very much a dream come true.
And you provided a perfect segue there, because as you'd mentioned, you went to Mount Allison. Could you talk a little bit more about the decision that you made, or how it came to be that you made the transition from the ice and now to the booth?
Yeah, I always admired sports media. I thought how cool it would be one day to work in the landscape of sport. I had envisioned myself maybe doing sports management or marketing for a sports team. But I always had this little itch to try media and interview athletes. I always loved showcasing an athlete's personality. That was always my favorite part as a kid growing up, was hearing stories of players that maybe weren't the best players on the ice, but had a good personal story. And so I always related to that and really wanted to try and leave that as my mark when I got into the world of media. And so while I was at university, I started hosting YouTube shows on our athletic channel where I would interview athletes and sit down with fellow student athletes that I knew quite well. So they were really my friends. So I would message some of the guys on the football team or the basketball team and some female soccer players and say, "You free on Friday? Do you mind if I come over with a camera and a microphone and we chat about your story and the season this year?" And that scratched my itch. And from there, it was really, I fell in love with it. I started volunteering with the community channel in Amherst, Nova Scotia, right next door, in my 5th and final year of school. So if I wasn't in the classroom or on the ice, I was with their producer, shadowing him, seeing how you tell a story and how live sports broadcasts work. Because at the time, community television and rolling a truck and having play-by-play and having all the cameras was hard to find on a community level. And I got that there. And lucky enough, a few years after I graduated, I was offered a full-time job. And that's where I got to be a part of a live show and, try play-by-play, hosting, color commentary, and I really got to do it all. So Halifax and the Maritimes is where I first started and got all my reps, and it's really still one of my favorite places to be, and I'm so grateful for my time there and the bosses that encouraged me to try play-by-play because it was never really something on my radar. So I have tip my hat to Brett Smith, the manager at the time, who thought I'd be good at it, encouraged me to give it a try, and I haven't really looked back since.
And so, what are some of the biggest things that you've learned in, whether it was early on in your career or now as you've transitioned more obviously to the national broadcasts and other tournaments as well? What are some of the biggest things that you've learned about both yourself but also the profession itself as well?
Yeah, I think for me, you're in it on a daily basis. And I think with the launch of this season, there's so many new fans. And so things that to me I might overlook or just know internally, you got to share with others because it's maybe their first time learning of an athlete or their first time um, hearing of a minor hockey team in the Boston region. So remember that everything is still new and we get a chance now to tell these stories for the fan base for the first time. And how awesome is that? So for me, it's been about pulling back a little bit, thinking big picture on some of the overarching storylines and getting them out there. So I think that's been new for me. And also really diving into the international scene since joining TSN full time, covering the World Championship, learning more about the Hungarian national program. Where did they start? Where are they now? And the growth internationally of the sport. I'm so grateful that I've learned so much more about how hockey is ingrained in smaller communities all across the world and how the growth of the women's game, we talk about it a lot here in North America, but how is it growing in Finland? How is it growing in other parts of the world? So, learning everything I can and trying to share that with viewers is just been so fun. Like it's been unreal. I feel like I'm always a student. I'm always researching, learning new things, and then okay, in our 2-hour broadcast, how can you present that new information? So I feel like I've never put away my books or my highlighters. I'm always a student, and I'm just trying to tell the stories the best way I can.
And that actually brings me to another great segue again. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the assist on that one. You mentioned the opportunity that you've had in expanding your media, I guess, career in terms of being able to cover international tournaments. And what an incredible opportunity that's been. And the women's worlds this year, you did a great job. It was an incredible tournament. I really, really enjoyed it. How do you? Maybe this is a bit of a peek behind the curtain, but how do you actually prepare for these things, especially when you're going, you're covering at certain times in your season, you'll be covering, maybe it's the Canadians or it's, it's some other tournament internationally or something like that. How do you prepare and balance being able to go back and forth between different leagues, knowing different players, maybe players that people haven't heard of, like you've mentioned in other countries and things like that? What goes into the prep for this?
Whole lot of coffee and late nights. No, but actually, it's been awesome. I think that's what's also really nice about the role that I found myself in nowadays is I do dip my toes not only into hockey, but in the summer times I'm doing CFL football as well with the Alouettes and covering the leagues here in Canada. So it's an immense responsibility and you want to do it justice. And for me, a lot of the time it's picking up the phone and making sure to have conversations with whether it's team managers overseas and in Denmark or in China to get more information and make sure you get the right information. And also being organized, I think really has tried to help me as well. But I think when I look at preparing for a world championship in particular, it starts months in advance. You're in the middle of at World Juniors while I'm doing those intermission interviews in Gothenburg, Sweden. I'm between those two games building my U18 Women's World Finnish roster and talking to maybe the Finnish men's World Junior team, seeing if there's any connections with the women's program. So a lot of the time behind the scenes, it's simultaneously finding opportunities to get prepared for the next event. So it's really looking in advance and getting the research packs and informations done ahead of time, because we know at the end of the day, the rosters really are only finalized a few days before the tournament starts. So at that point, I have most of my information done. And then when you get on site, it's putting it into context, finding more information, and then you're off to the races. And as soon as you get into those international tournaments, the stories tell themselves. It's what happened back in game one. It's speaking with players when you can and moving forward. And sometimes on 3-game days, it's stripping back to basics and making sure it's the right name and it's the right country and it's the right color, and just trying to do them justice. Because I think also on the international scene, you look at teams that come up from being promoted, like Denmark, for instance. We've seen Hungary, China here. This is the first time they're getting this type of exposure. We had the same amount of cameras we had at World Juniors at the most recent World Championship. The resources we put into it here at TSN really is the right way to do it. And our coverage is unbelievable. And so we want to make sure each team gets that proper representation and exposure. And you want to do it right. And this might be their only time up here in the top division. So let's make sure we get their names right. Let's make sure we tell the correct information. So I always just feel like there's this great responsibility, whether it is the Montreal Canadiens or the World Championship, staying on top of it, staying current. You know, you just slam back a few extra coffees and make one more phone call.
That's great. I feel like your blood is mostly coffee at this point. It must be.
Well, you know, when the sleeve here says, "Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?" A great Chandler Bing quote, it makes it go down a little easier.
There it is. Yes, of course, of course. Shifting gears a little bit here. When we talk about the PWHL, I just kind of wanted to start by, before we get into some of the more nitty gritty, especially as a former player yourself, what is this moment and this incredible reception to this league? What does it mean, first of all, to you personally, but what does it also mean to you to be a part of it?
I think a lot of people have asked me that. Are you surprised to see the response? And for me, it's more of like a finally. The players, the efforts, the quality of play is getting the respect it deserves. So it's kind of like, when you come across a new artist or band early and you're like, "I'm telling you guys, it's good. And then, it hits the top 40s and everybody's like, "Oh, this song's great." And you're like, "I've been telling you that for months." So I feel that that passion for it. And I'm just so glad it's finally here. And I think for me and the piece of it, I was thinking this last night, it's funny you asked me that. What I love most about play-by-play is you're in it for the 60 minutes. You're on the edge of your seat, describing the moment as it's happening to the athlete. And in a way, it feels like I'm still a part of it, like I'm on the ice. So I think that enthusiasm is so natural because I'm reacting as I would if I was the one on the ice. And huge saves, like, oh man, like Frankel has robbed Laura Stacey this series so much. And I feel the same frustration Laura Stacey feels, and the saves are just unbelievable. So I think that authenticity of knowing that feeling of what it must be like on the ice. I mean, I guess I don't know because I have never played professional hockey, but you just want to do that justice and share their stories. Like, I mean, I played at university in the Maritimes and our games were streamed and the quality was not very good. But every single time the play-by-play guy said my hometown, saying Stittsville, Ontario, that meant so much to me. And so I always try and incorporate, these women's towns because, if you're a little kid at home and you're watching and you're like, Gabby Hughes is from Lino Lakes, Minnesota. Like, we're from Lino Lakes. You know what I mean? You get this sense of she's one of us. She's one of us and she's out there doing her thing. So I want to, do justice and try and provide that kind of exposure to these women who have earned their right to be here and showcase the best hockey. Like, it's just so entertaining. So I'm having a joyride being a part of it.
And we will be right back. This episode is sponsored by Durant Barristers. Durant Barristers is a proud supporter of women's sports and is an inaugural sponsor of the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Durant Barristers provides legal services for athletes, coaches, officials, administrators, and sports associations of all sizes, from minor associations to national sports organizations and professional sports environments. We routinely assist with safe sport complaints, investigations, anti-doping, harassment, discrimination, abuse, and governance matters. We also provide representation on general civil litigation matters, including employment and business disputes of all sizes. Durant Barristers founder Aaron Durant also provides mediation and arbitration services to assist in managing disputes in a timely and affordable manner. Durant Barristers has generously offered their best ever discount to fans and supporters of women's hockey. Mention the Rinkside Rundown podcast to, wait for it, receive 15% off all your accounts with Durant Barristers for the duration of your relationship with the firm. To learn more about Durant Barristers, visit www.durantbarristers.com. That's www.durantbarristers.com. Thank you to Durant Barristers for sponsoring this episode.
And now, back to the show.
Yeah, and I always tell people that, you know, I've been fortunate enough to see a number of different sporting events, whether that was you know, Sens games or Red Blacks games or, you know, Blue Jays, Raptors. Like, I've seen a ton of different sporting events, Atletico Ottawa as well. But there is nothing that has compared to the experience that I've had helping to cover PWHL Ottawa. There's nothing more incredible than the experience that you have in that rink. And I'm sure that it goes for all the other rinks as well. I went to Place Bell and that place was just electric as well. So I feel you, like, this is an incredible, you know, once you get your taste, your first taste of it, there's like, you can't go back after that.
I know. Like, I'm so glad you brought up TD Place, because that rink to me is the best fan atmosphere. The crowd. I mean, you go back to day one when they booed Marie-Philippe Poulin. Come on, like, that is just the fans finally having an outlet to share their, you know, their opinions and their passion for the game. And I think for me, growing up in that rink, I've skated on it as a minor hockey league player as well. So when I did that first game later in January, when I came back from the World Juniors and got started, I remember just right before we went to air, taking a look around and thinking, as if, like, this is unbelievable to think I grew up playing minor hockey here and I'm calling my first ever PWHL game. It was something that I'll never forget. And seeing all the jerseys in the stands, the Gloucester Stars, I remember playing against them, Canada Rangers, that's the program I played. And now there's a girls minor hockey team called the Stittsville Rockets. When I grew up, there was no Stittsville minor hockey team for women, and now there is. And so seeing that growth and being a part of it has just been unreal. And that rink, I think, you know, it's too bad they didn't make playoffs. That would have been an electric atmosphere. But, you know, Ottawa's got a bright future. Carla McLeod at the helm of it all. Ottawa's in really good hands.
Wow. So that answer, I don't know about you, but that answer gave me chills. I wanted to know, you know, obviously, like you've mentioned, you had the opportunity to call now at time of the recording of this, two playoff games, and both have gone to overtime. I just kind of wanted to know, first of all, how have you recovered from the second game, which went for what I was sure I thought at one moment it was never going to end. And so, like, what was it like to be a part of playoffs in general, but specifically that game? How do you rebound from that and, like, recover? I mean, coffee would probably be part of your answer. But then, you know, what goes into play-by-play when you're calling a game for, I think it was almost 5 hours?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're up there in the booth talking about it. I don't know how those women did it. Let's be honest. They're the real heroes in all this. I cannot imagine that. I think the longest game I've ever played in was a double overtime. Mind you, I think it would have been 3-on-3 at the time, but still, I don't know how they did it. It was long. I think I got to a point where it all just kind of blends and you're just so dialed into the moment where it's not like autopilot, but it's just, that's all that matters. Like, if you were to ask me, like, where do you live? I don't know if I would have been able to tell you that in the moment. And I think also, you know, Cheryl and I have had our long nights and we've called 4 hockey games in one day before. So we've had moments where we've been pushed to the limit, I guess, if you weigh. And so we got a little giddy up there. We got things became a little more funny that they maybe wouldn't normally become funny. And I'm so grateful for our stats guy, Gary. We were heading into the triple overtime and he had a granola bar. He had two. And so he's like, ladies, eat up. And we were so grateful. We were so hungry. So I'm glad I was able to have that extra kick of energy going in that triple overtime, because I'm with you. I thought for sure it was going to go to 4. So we arrived there at about 4 p.m. We do some hits before we get started. And then we got off air at about 12:30 in the morning because we do a post-game hit as well. And I watched it back this morning. I saw it on SportsCenter and I'm like, I don't even remember taping that because you're just so dialed in. So I'm looking back on it, I'm just glad that Taylor Winkowski's goal was a good goal. I would have been really disappointed for the athletes if it was, it bonked off someone's head or went off, the back of a player. I'm glad it was a good goal. I think it was a well fought battle, and Boston got rewarded for scoring a decent goal in that front to get it done.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, Frankel has just been playing lights out. Like I think I saw that's more than 100 shots that she's seen, and she's only let in 3 goals?
109 saves on 111 shots right now going into game 3. Her numbers are unbelievable. She's as someone who just came from Fenway Park, she is the green monster. Like nothing is getting by her. She is having herself a heck of a playoff run.
You make sure to use that in the broadcast, because that's a good one right there. That's a really good one.
Oh my God, I should. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, definitely do it. I think that'll resonate, especially being in Boston right now. That'll definitely resonate with them.
Okay, locked in.
Yes, great. Heard it here first. So, we could go through all of the stats from this season. In terms of, how many total social media impressions, 238 million, 40 plus corporate sponsors, record-breaking attendance, started with Ottawa and it's just gone up from there, right? Over 100,000 YouTube subscribers. The list continues. When you hear that, like, what comes to mind?
I think I just smile, and I'm just so happy for the athletes. They are getting the attention they deserve. I think the social teams have done such a good job to keep it fun and entertaining. Toronto's reveal with Rory, I think, was cute. So I think they're getting that stuff right. And for me, big picture, the fact that these games are on YouTube is a game changer. I think that has driven the conversation, the quality of bringing the substance of those numbers that you spoke about, those viewerships, because of YouTube and making that accessible anywhere around the world. Where was I the other night? And I was able to stream the beginning of that Toronto, Minnesota game. I think I was coming home from dinner, but I could just flip it on my phone, no problem. And I think the league did such a great job to make sure everybody could watch this game in the palm of their hand if they wanted. And that's what they need. And I can't wait till it starts, rolling out more details on team names and logos, and each team getting a little bit more of an identity in that sense is only going to continue to grow.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight something you'd mentioned there, which was just around the innovation that this league has. They're unafraid to make a decision, stick with it, but also adjust if it doesn't work. And just ultimately, unlike a lot of the other leagues, the professional leagues that have, I think about baseball, they have their traditions, and they just won't change certain certain rules or how they go about doing things, just because it's historic and it's a part of their identity. But with the PWHL, they're like, hey, let's try this jailbreak thing, see how that goes. And we saw how like I always tell people, the jailbreak rule, fantastic, awesome, only when it works for your team. It sucks when it's against your team.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit. Recently, I will kind of touch on the last couple of things here. Recently, we did see the first, I don't want to say firing, a mutual parting of ways, if you will, between New York and their head coach, Howie Draper. And I just kind of wanted to get maybe some of your thoughts on what happened there, and on Howie Draper himself.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of knowing Howie now for quite a few years. He had coached the U18 women's national team for quite a few years. And so I think I first met him back when he was coaching the 2022 Team Canada team when they were in Madison, Wisconsin, their first World Championship back after COVID. And just such a nice guy, thorough in speaking with. We're lucky enough to have conversations with coaches before each game at the World Championship a lot of the times, but also here in the PWHL, and always courteous and explains himself and will walk you through decisions that he has made. And I'm always appreciative of that as a member of media. A coach is willing to take the time to talk to you and treat you like a person and make a few jokes and laugh about some U Sports memories as well, having covered that league prior as well. But it's time for a change. New York has an exceptional amount of talent, and it was seemed to have been a mutual decision. So if both parties walk away happy on this and New York gets a new fresh face in there and can find the answer, that's what they need. So I'm not surprised to see a change here, and I think it's exciting for New York to think of their next chapter and the rink they might play in, and good things are happening for that organization. And if that's the first change that's going to be made, then let's see what happens after this. I'm excited.
And speaking of after this, we have the draft that's right around the corner. It's an incredibly exciting time. Obviously, this is an incredibly deep draft, and it's just so thrilling to see all these names on this draft. Not without going into necessarily specifics around each team, although I wish we had the time to do that because I'd love your insights on that. What do you kind of expect from this draft?
What do I expect? I'm excited to see. I think the level of talent's incredible. I mean, right now, this is a top-heavy league. When you think of, you just go back to the Montreal-Boston series and the minutes being played. And so the next step of the PWHL and the quality of play next year, as a result of the players coming in from this draft, it's going to be remarkable. When you look at the talent coming in, and the type of product we're going to see next year is going to be even better. So, is Sarah Fillier-Lock going first overall? I think so. You look at that Princeton connection, New York, and that will be so fun to see her thrive there and play alongside Alex Carpenter. I would love to see what that line can do. It's going to be exciting. And I think each team, in the world of hockey, NHL, everything, having a top quality, whether it be center or at least goal scorer, number one, and having a two-way defender, another hot commodity. So each team, in my opinion, needs both of those things. Each team could use another finisher, and each team can use another strong quality defender. And so when you look at identifying each team's needs, I think every team needs that. I look at Ottawa in particular. If I'm Ottawa, I'm taking a defender. I'm taking Kayla Barnes, absolutely. As much as I think Hannah Bilka and Daryl Watts could do some absolute damage out there, I think a quality defender is so important in this league. You look at Rania Savalainen, what she can do. Daniela Pesheva coming in from Czechia. She is going to be a force. I think to be successful in this league, from a forward point of view, you need to be able to play strong. You have to be able to get your lanes, your shooting abilities through the chaos that is the physical nature of this game. And so if you can bring that forward and still get your quality shots and your goal scoring done through traffic, you're going to be incredible in this league. So there's a lot of players, I think, in this draft that have that quality. And so I'm excited to see how it'll translate come next year.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their health and diets so they can perform their best on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, The Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is opening soon. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, get on the waitlist today. Learn more and sign up at melissabufunos.com/course. That's MELISSABUFOUNOS.com/course. Thank you to Melissa Bufunos for sponsoring this episode.
And now, back to the show.
Yeah, it feels like it's forever until we get more PWHL. I know that the playoffs haven't even finished yet, but I already miss Ottawa, and it feels like it's going to be forever until I get to see them play again. But to know just how deep this draft is, you actually, I just wrote a piece about who I expected Ottawa to take with their second overall draft pick, and we're on the same page about Barnes. So when you said that, I was like, good, I nailed this article already. I'm just going to go through a quick speed round of just random questions. These are just
I love this stuff.
It's basically 20 questions, but like more like 6. What advice would you give your younger self?
So good.
Thanks.
I think. Oh, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be quick, and I'm not being very quick.
No, that's fine.
I think just to like have fun. Like, I think I've always been a very driven person, and I'm schedule oriented. And so I think for me, just have a little bit more fun every now and then. And so that would be my biggest ticket of advice for younger me.
Yeah, when you're a kid, it's all about having fun. When you're an adult, it's like I gotta work, I gotta go to work, I gotta do, go through the grind.
Yeah, so maybe I should have really soaked it up when I was just 12 years old and 13 before I had responsibilities.
Yeah, you're telling me. What do you miss most about Ottawa and the area?
Well, a lot of my friends are still there. I'm lucky enough I still get to see them quite a bit. But I think, oh man, that's so hard too. I loved Stittsville does still have a coffee shop. I think it's called, they changed now. But at the time when I came back from university, me and my friends would always go to Quitters for morning coffee, and then we'd walk the trail. And that was always our routine. And then we'd go to the dog park down the street just behind the church near Sacred Heart. So I think whenever I think of going back home and doing a little routine morning with friends, that would be my ideal day, having a nice coffee at the now new Quitters. I forgot the name of it. Grabbing my family dog and going for a walk. So that would be, those are always my go-to things.
Good answer. Last 2 ones here. You have only one song that you can listen to for the rest of your life. And it doesn't have to be on repeat, but if you're going to listen to a song, it has to be this one. Which one would it be?
I think 1, 2, 3, 4 by Alan Doyle. So I'm a huge Alan Doyle fan, or like Great Big Sea. I think it can suit my mood, whether I'm excited, energetic, like sad. I don't know why, but it can always make me happy and make me excited. So I'm going to go with the song 1, 2, 3 by Alan Doyle.
Nice. I can tell how important the East Coast was to you. I'm
an adopted Maritimer.
Yeah, exactly. Lastly, what's something on your career to-do list that you'd be excited to try?
Oh man, I think just any chance you can be involved with the Olympics. Of course, women's hockey is at the top there, but any chance you can be a part of the Olympic Games, summer or winter, is the pinnacle of sport. I would love to always be involved in those Olympic Games if possible. They're so fun. And again, I think it's the international piece to it all, meeting people from all over the world and sport fans and how everyone does things differently back home. And the media landscape as well it's always so fun to learn new things. So the Olympic Games has always been up there on me. The Beijing Games was one that I don't think will ever be replicated just because it was a COVID Games, and I have so many memories from that month of my life. So I'd be interested to try an Olympics where it's a normal one, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, we're going to be excited to see when that happens, because it will. It has to. You're an incredible broadcaster, so it's around the corner for you. And so, Kenzie, as we wrap things up today, I just wanted to say so much, or appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend a little bit of time with me today, answer some of my questions, get your perspective on both your career as well as the incredible league that is the PWHL. But just once again, thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. This was so fun. And I'm glad we got to experience the Friends Cafe together.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, that's how I was going to sign off. I'm excited that I was a part of this. This is great. It looks fantastic. And there you have it, folks. For Kenzie Lalonde, I'm Chris Sinclair. And this has been the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Cheers.